We know that the basic building blocks of matter contains 6 leptons, 6 quarks, and 4 force carriers, and also the recently discovered Higgs bosons. In the previous lecture, we have discussed the essential characteristics of leptons and some of the interactions that they involve. We have seen that certain leptons are extremely stable, whereas some of them decay within 10 to the power minus 6 or 10 to the power minus 13 seconds. The influence of lepton number is also discussed in the previous lecture. Now we enter into the realm of strong interaction physics. 6 distinct types or flavors of spin half quarks are now known to exist. Like the leptons, they occur in pairs or generations, up down, charm strange, top bottom. Each generation consists of a quark with a charge plus 2 by 3 and minus 1 by 3. The quantum numbers associated with the S, C, B, and T quarks are called strangeness, charm, beauty, and truth, respectively. The anti-quarks are denoted by D bar, S bar, or B bar with charges 1 by 3 and minus 2 by 3 charge U bar, C bar, and T bar. Approximate quark masses are given in the table shown in the next slides. Except for the top quark, these masses are inferred indirectly from the observed masses of their hadron bound states together with modus of quark binding. The stability of quarks in hadrons, like the stability of protons and neutrons in the atomic nuclei, is influenced by their interaction energies. However, for the S, C, and B quarks, these effects are small enough for them to be assigned approximate lifetimes of 10 to the power minus 8 or to 10 to the power minus 10 seconds for the S quark and 10 to the power minus 12 to 10 to the power minus 13 seconds for both C and B quarks. The top quark is much heavier than the other quarks and its lifetime is of the order of 10 to the power minus 25 seconds. This lifetime is so short that when the top quarks are created, they decay too quickly to form observable hadrons. In contrast to the other quarks, our knowledge of the top quark is based entirely on observations of its decay products. When we talk about the decay of quarks, we always mean that the decay takes place within a hadron, with the other bound quarks acting as spectators, that is, not taking part in the interaction. Thus, for example, in this picture, neutron decay at the quark level is given by the Feynman diagram of figure and no free quarks are observed. Note that it is assumed that the exchanged particle interacts with only one constituent quark in the nucleons. The properties of 6 quarks, up down, strange charm, top bottom, are given in the table. All have spin half and masses are given in units of giga electron volt by c square. The antiparticles not shown here have the same masses as their associated particles, but the electric charges are reversed in sign. The last column shows the major decay paths of these quarks. A particle, by its nature, is a localized entity. In classical particle mechanics, we are typically interested in calculating its position as a function of time, xt, yt, zt. A field, on the other hand, occupies some region of space. In the field theory, our concern is to calculate one or more functions of position and time, phi I, x, y, z, t. It is a good fiction to visualize that God has created field or particles or both and then space for their existence. The quantized field gets agglomerated to a small and large particles that are grouped into families of photons, leptons, mesons, and baryons, which come from the two subgroups of bosons and fermions corresponding to 1 and 1.5 integral spin respectively, like males and females of a species. These particles then combined into heavier mass, atoms, molecules, the matter, and finally the universe. The story sounds to be exciting, but physics or science needs reasons for everything. Why and how? Men create laboratories to test every possibility and reproduce the results to confirm and theorize through mathematical models and equations. Experimental evidence for the existence of quarks on the top of a hypothesis for performing mathematical calculations is an example where the story turns into a natural reality. Both leptons and baryons are fermions, whereas photons and the mesons are bosons. Mesons and baryons are the particles that participate in strong interaction and are collectively known as hadrons. They also interact through the weak and electromagnetic forces, though such effects can often be neglected compared to the strong interactions. Leptons, on the other hand, experience no strong interaction but interact through weak electromagnetic and gravitational forces only. In this lecture, we try to explain some of the problems and find the answer to more fundamental questions, including how does strong force charge independent? Why do they have short range? How does the range of nuclear force affect the stability of a nucleus? We will also discuss an interesting property that Neutron is stable inside the nucleus, whereas decay in 611 seconds half-life when let free. And many other questions to understand the fundamentals of high energy particle physics, including how and why the nuclear force is charge independent while strongly depends on nuclear spin. Even before describing more experiments to study the force between two nucleons, we have guessed a few of the properties of the nucleon-nucleon forces. Number 1, at short distance, it is stronger than the Coulombian force, and the nuclear force can overcome the Coulombian repulsion of protons in the nucleus. Number 2, at long distance of the order of atomic sizes, the nuclear force is negligibly feeble. The interactions among nuclei in a molecule can be understood based only on the Coulomb force. Third one, some particles are immune to the nuclear force. For example, there is no evidence from the atomic structure that electrons feel the nuclear force at all. In other words, the atomic electrons, that is, the electrons orbiting in an atom around the nucleus, experience no influence of the nuclear force, not only because they are far apart, but leptons are immune to strong force also. As we begin to do experiments to explore the properties of the nuclear force, we find several other remarkable characteristics. 1. The nucleon-nucleon force seems to be nearly independent of whether the nucleons are neutrons or protons, and this property is called charge independence. Second, the nucleon-nuclear force depends on whether the spins of the nucleons are parallel or anti-parallel, that is, spin dependence of strong force. Third one, the nucleon-nucleon force includes a repulsive term which keeps the nucleons at a certain average separation. Otherwise, nucleus would have collapsed further. Number 4, it has a non-central or tensor component. This part of the force does not conserve orbital angular momentum, which is a constant of motion under central force. For example, gravitation and electromagnetism. That is, nuclear force is not a central force, and strong force increases with the distance comparable to nuclear dimensions. A deuteron or 2H nucleus consists of a neutron and a proton. A neutral atom of deuteron is known as deuterium. It is the simplest bound state of nucleons and therefore gives us an ideal system for studying the nucleon-nucleon interaction. For nuclear physics, the deuteron should be what the hydrogen atom is for atomic physics. Just as the measured series of electromagnetic transitions between the excited states of the hydrogen led to the understanding of the structure of hydrogen atom, the electromagnetic transitions between the excited states of the deuteron led to the understanding of nuclear structure. Unfortunately, there are no excited states of the deuteron. It has a weakly bound system that the only excited states are unbound systems consist of a free proton and a neutron. The binding energy of the deuteron is a very precisely measured quantity which can be determined in different ways. The binding energy B of a nucleus is the difference in mass energy between a nucleus AZXN and its constituent Z protons and N neutrons. That is, B equals Z into MP plus N into Mn minus M of AX minus Z into ME, the whole multiplied by C square, where MP and Mn stands for mass of proton and neutron respectively, and Me is the mass of electron. Grouping the Z proton and electron masses into Z neutral hydrogen atoms, we can rewrite the above equation as B equals Z into M of 1H plus N into Mn minus M of AX, the whole multiplied by C square. With the masses generally given in atomic mass units, it is convenient to include the unit conversion factor C square. That is, C square equals 931.5 MeV divided by U. Using the mass doublet method, the following determinations have been made. Here, we use the symbol D for deuteron. In the first method, we consider the molecules C6H12 and C6D6 to compare with C5D12 and C6D6. The calculated values are in very good agreement, and using the measured 1H and neutron masses, we can find the binding energy. B equals M of 1S plus M of N minus M of CH, M of 2H into C square equals 2.22463 plus or minus 0.00004 MeV. We can also determine this binding energy directly by bringing a proton and a neutron together to form 2H and measuring the energy of the gamma ray photon that is emitted. That is, 1H plus N gives 2H plus gamma, or P plus N gives D plus gamma. The deduced binding energy, which is equal to the observed energy of the photon less a small recoil correction, is in excellent agreement with the mass spectroscopic value. A third method uses the reverse reaction called photodissociation. That is, gamma plus 2h gives 1h plus n, in which a gamma ray photon breaks apart a deuteron. The minimum gamma ray energy that accomplishes this process is equal to the binding energy corrected for the recoil of the final products. The observed value is 2.224 plus or minus 0.002 MeV, which is in good agreement with the mass spectroscopic value. We know that the average binding energy per nucleon is about 8 MeV for most of the cases. The deuteron is therefore a very weakly bound system compared with typical nuclei. Now, let us see how we can analyze these results to study the properties of the deuteron. To simplify the analysis of the deuteron, we will assume that we can represent the nucleon-nucleon potential as a three-dimensional square well, as shown in the figure. Vr is equal to minus V0 for r less than capital R and is equal to 0 for r greater than capital R. This is, of course, an oversimplification, but it is sufficient for at least some qualitative conclusions. Here, small r represents the separation between the proton and the neutron. So, capital R is in effect a measure of the diameter of the deuteron. Let us assume that the lowest energy state of the deuteron has L is equal to 0. For each potential Vr, all we need to do is to find a solution of the radial equation minus h cross square divided by 2m d square r by dr square plus 2 by r dr by dr plus Vr plus L into L plus 1 h cross square divided by 2m r square multiplied by capital R equals E into R. If we define the radial part of psi r as ur by r, then we can rewrite the equation as minus h cross square divided by 2m d square u by dr square plus Vrur equals EUR. This expression looks exactly like the one-dimensional equation, and the solution can be written accordingly. For small r less than capital R, UR is equal to A sin K1R plus B cos K1R, with K1 equals root of 2m into E plus V0 by h cross square. And for small r greater than capital R, UR is equal to C into e to the power minus K2R plus D into e to the power plus K2R, with K2 equals root of minus 2me by h cross square with E less than 0 for bound states. To keep the wave function finite for r tends to infinity, we must have d equal to 0, and to keep it finite for r tends to 0, we must have b equal to 0. Xi depends on ur by r. As r tends to 0, ur must go to 0. Applying the continuity condition on u and du by dr at r is equal to 0, we obtain k1 cot k1 r is equal to minus k2. This transcendental equation gives a relationship between V0 and capital R. From the electron scattering experiments, the RMS charge radius of the deuteron is known to be about 2.1 Fermi, which provides a reasonable first estimate for capital R. Solving equations numerically, we get V0 is equal to 35 MeV. This is actually a quite reasonable estimate of the strength of the nucleon potential, even in more complex nuclei. However, note that the proton and neutron are very likely to be found at separations greater than capital R. We can see from figure that how close the deuteron is to the top of the well. If the nucleon force were just a bit weaker, the deuteron bound state would not exist. We are fortunate that it does, because of the formation of the deuteron from hydrogen is the first step not only in the proton-proton cycle of fusion by which our sun makes its energy, but also in the formation of stable matter from the primordial hydrogen that filled the early universe. If no stable two-nucleon bound state existed, we would not be here to discuss this. The deuteron wave function is shown in the figure. The weak binding means that psi r is just barely able to turn over in the well so as to connect at r is equal to capital R with the negative slope of the decaying exponential. Nucleons, like electrons, have spin quantum number equal to half. A nucleon moving in a central potential with orbital angular momentum L and spin S has a total angular momentum J equals L plus S, and magnetic quantum number Mj equals Ml plus Ms equals Ml plus or minus half. Since Ml is always an integer, Mj must have half integral values only. The total angular momentum I of the deuteron should have three components: spin Sn and Sp of the neutron and proton, and that orbital angular momentum L of the nucleons. That is, I equals Sn plus Sp plus L. When we solved the Schrodinger equation for the deuteron, we assumed that L equals 0 in analogy with the lowest bound state in atomic hydrogen. The measured spin of the deuteron is I equal to 1, since the neutron and proton spins can be either parallel or antiparallel. There are 4 ways to couple Sn, Sp and L to get a total I of 1. That is, Sn and Sp parallel with L equals 0. Sn and Sp antiparallel with L equal to 1. Sn and Sp parallel with L equal to 1. Sn and Sp parallel with L equal to 2. However, we take the value Sn and Sp parallel with L equal to 0. Along with the nuclear spin, the parity is also used to label nuclear states. The parity can either plus for even or minus for odd values. If we knew the wave function of every nucleon, we could determine the nuclear parity by multiplying together the parities of each of the A nucleons, ending with the result pi either plus or minus. That is, pi equals pi 1 into pi 2 etc. pi A. However, in practice, no such procedure is possible because we generally cannot assign a definite wave function of non-parity to every nucleon. Like the spin I, we regard the parity pi as an overall property of the whole nucleus. It can be directly measured using a variety of techniques of nuclear decays and reactions. The parity is denoted by a plus or minus superscript to the nuclear spin as I to the power pi. There is no direct theoretical relationship between I and pi. For any value of I, it is possible to have either pi equals plus or minus. By studying the reactions involving deuterons and the property of the photon emitted during the formation of deuterons, we know that its parity is even. We have the parity associated with orbital motion as minus 1 to the power L. Even parity for L equal to 0, S states, and L is equal to 2 for D states, and odd parity L is equal to 1 for P states. The observed even parity allows us to eliminate the combinations of spins that includes L equal to 1, leaving L is equal to 0 and L is equal to 2 as possibilities. The spin and parity of the deuteron are therefore consistent with L is equal to 0 as we assumed, but still we cannot exclude the possibility of L is equal to 2. We discussed earlier the spin and orbital contribution to the magnetic dipole moment. If L is equal to 0 assumption is correct, there should be no orbital contribution to the magnetic moment. And we can assume that total magnetic moment to be simply the combination of the neutron and proton magnetic moments. That is, mu equals mu n plus mu p equals g Sn mu n by S cross Sn plus g Sp mu n by S cross Sp, where g Sn equals minus 3.826084 and GSP equals 5.585691. We take the observed magnetic moment to be the Z component of mu. When the spin have their maximum value plus S cross by 2, mu equals half into mu n into GSN plus GSP equals 0.879804 mu n. The observed value 0.8574376 plus or minus 0.0000004. That is 6 zeros followed by 4 multiplied by mu n, which is in good but not quite exact agreement with the calculated value. The small discrepancy can be ascribed to any of the number of factors such as contributions from mesons exchanged between neutron and proton. In the present context, we can assume the discrepancy to arise from a small mixture of d states, that is L is equal to 2 in the deuteron wave function, or xi equals as psi L is equal to 0 plus ad psi L is equal to 2. As mentioned earlier, that we cannot ignore the possibility of L is equal to 2. The fact that the deuteron has an electric quadrupole moment means that its probability density function is not spherically symmetrical. This immediately tells us that the nucleon potential, which specifies the force acting between the two nucleons, is not spherically symmetrical. The point is here that all spherically symmetrical potentials have L is equal to 0 eigenfunctions for their ground states, and the probability density functions for such eigenfunctions are all spherically symmetrical. As an example, the Coulombian potential and the spherically symmetrical ground state of one electron atom. Here, the departure from spherical symmetry is not very large. Thus, we consider the deuteron as a system in which the nucleons are bound in a 3s1 state of a spherically symmetrical nucleon potential Vr, where r is the distance between their centers. This potential specifies the force acting between the two nucleons. This agrees with the fact that the deuteron is observed to have no bound excited state. Now, the spins of the proton and neutron are essentially parallel in 3 s1 bound states of the deuteron. We know that there are no bound deuterons with nucleon spins essentially anti-parallel. And what is the reason for the absence of a bound 1s0 state? An explanation is that the nucleon potential is spin dependent, being appreciably weaker when the two nucleons interact with essentially anti-parallel spins, that is, in a singlet state. Thus, due to the absence of 1s0 bound states, the potential is sufficiently weak to prevent the nucleons from binding stably together. Or in other words, only parallel spins provides sufficient potential to hold the nucleons together. Quantitative evidence for the spin dependence of the nucleon potential is obtained from the analysis of the scattering of unbound neutrons and protons. This information about the spin dependence is confirmed by analyzing the scattering of low energy protons from protons, and that analysis also provides additional evidence that the nucleon potential is charge independent. That is, it makes no distinction between protons and neutrons. The evidence is that a nucleon potential which agrees with the measured neutron-proton scattering cross-section also agrees with the measured proton-proton scattering cross-section. This does not mean that the cross-sections are the same. In proton-proton scattering, the Coulomb potential, which is present in addition to the nucleon potential, affects the small angle scattering, and the exclusion principle affects all the scatterings by suppressing certain quantum states. The scattering of a low energy nucleon from a nucleon does not give information about the form of nucleon potential. Thus, only high energy nucleons have enough resolving power to be effective as probe in studying the form of the nucleon potential. For example, if the radius of the potential is taken as 2 Fermi, the differential cross-section for scattering d sigma by d omega can be expected to depart from isotropy when the kinetic energy incident nucleon exceeds about 40 MeV. For example, two nucleons interact with the nucleon force of range R prime equal to Fermi in a state in which the angular momentum quantum number assumes its maximum possible value. If this value of L max is equal to 1, the kinetic energy of each nucleon in the center of mass frame of reference can be calculated as follows. We have the angular momentum L equals a root of L into L plus 1 S cross, with L is equal to L max equal to 1. The angular momentum L equals root of 1 into 1 plus 1 S cross equals root 2 S cross. Also, L is equal to PR prime, where P is the linear momentum, or P is equal to L by R prime, equals root 2 S cross by R prime. The kinetic energy of each nucleon in the center of mass frame is K equals P square by 2m is nearly equal to 2S cross square divided by 2m R prime square can be calculated to 10 MeV. The total kinetic energy in that frame of reference is K total equals 2K equals 20 MeV, because the two interacting particles have the same mass. The kinetic energy of the moving one in a frame of reference in which the other one is initially stationary is twice the total kinetic energy in the center of mass of reference. Thus, the kinetic energy of the incident nucleon is K incident equals 2K total equals 40 MeV. So, the nucleons in a nucleus actually interact strongly with each other in only half of the quantum states that the angular momentum considerations would otherwise allow to contribute to the total interactions. This property of nucleon potential helps make nucleon forces saturate by suppressing the attractive nucleon forces in half of the interactions. But this is not enough. To obtain saturation, it is necessary that some of the nucleon forces be repulsive. That is, there must be a repulsive part in the nucleon potential. The study of proton-proton scattering at high energies showed that the radial dependence of the nucleon potential is such that it has a repulsive region in its center. Experiments on the scattering of high-energy electrons from deuterons provide completely independent evidence of the existence of strong repulsive core in the nucleon potential. The experiments show that there is a hole in the center of the deuteron charge distribution. This means that the proton avoids the center of the deuteron, presumably because of the very strong repulsion it feels if it tries to get too close to the neutron. Analysis of both the electron-deuteron and proton-proton scattering experiments indicates that the radius of the repulsive core is about 0.5 Fermi. Figure shows the effect of a repulsive core potential on the radial dependence of the radial coordinate r times the radial part of the eigenfunction Rr for L is equal to 0 state eigenfunction for high energy proton-proton scattering. The solid curve shows R into capital R in the presence of the potential, and for comparison, the dashed curve shows what it would be like in the absence of the potential. Because of the energy of the incident proton is large compared to the depth of the attractive region of the potential, the effect of the repulsive core dominates and R into capital R is pushed out. In the second figure, we see the effect of a repulsive core on R into capital R for L is equal to 2 state eigenfunction for high energy proton-proton scattering. The solid curve shows R into R in the presence of the potential, and the dashed curve shows what it would be like in the absence of the potential. Since r into r is negligibly small at the core radius even in the absence of the potential, because r into r is proportional to r prime, the effect of the repulsive core is negligible. Thus, the attractive region dominates and r into r is pulled in. The repulsive core in the nucleon potential is the most important factor responsible for the saturation of the nucleon forces. In a nucleus, the core in the nucleon potentials add large positive contributions to the total energy if the nucleons are too closely packed. This is why the nucleons maintain an average center-to-center spacing of about 1.2 Fermi. At this spacing, any one nucleon can interact only with a limited number of nucleons, since the range of the nucleon force is about 2 Fermi, and so the nucleon force saturates. If there were no repulsive region in the nucleon potentials, the attractive regions would cause the nucleons to collapse until its linear dimensions were about equal to the range of the nucleon force. Then each nucleon would interact with all other nucleons, and the binding energy per nucleon delta E by A would be approximately proportional to A. Finally, we summarize the ground state of a deuteron by the following parameters, which are measured quantities. Binding energy delta E is equal to 2.22 MeV. Nuclear spin I is equal to 1. Parity is even. Magnetic dipole moment mu equals plus 0.857 mu n. Electric quadrupole moment Q equals plus 2.7 multiplied by 10 to the power minus 31 meter square. Charge distribution half value radius A is equal to 2.1 Fermi. We conclude this section by summarizing what is known about nucleon forces. Certainly, the first thing to say is that they are very complicated. When a nucleon of say 200 MeV kinetic energy interact with another nucleon, the system can be in any one of the following quantum states: 1s0, 3s1, 1p1, 3p0, 3p1, 3p2, 1d2, 3d1, 3d2, or 3d3. The nucleon potential is different in each of these states, and in each its form involves a fairly complicated radial dependence as well as departure from spherical symmetry. The only simplifications are the nucleon potential is charge independent, so it does not depend on species of the interacting nucleons. The exclusion principle prohibits interactions in certain quantum states between nucleons of the same species. In particular, the 3s1, 1p1, 3d1, 3d2, 3d3 states are excluded from the list. just coated in the neutron or proton-proton interactions. The reason is that if the space eigenfunction for a system of two identical nucleons is symmetric in label exchange, then the spin eigenfunction must be antisymmetric in such an exchange. And if the space eigenfunction is antisymmetric, the spin eigenfunction must be symmetric. The net effect of all the p-state interactions is very small, but the aligned spin experiments show this is partially due to the destructive interference in the interactions from different p-states, and the interactions in individual p-states are so small.